Pro wrestling has always been something that is very, very important to me. Something else that's been part of my life is video games. And those two go synonymous hand in hand. Whenever there's wrestling, there's usually a video game that comes out that year. Now, whether these games are good or bad, they've been around for a long, long time. We can even go back and look at the NES Pro Wrestling game and up to today where we have the WWE 2K series. Whether you like the current video games or you like the old school video games of professional wrestling, they have been around and they're going to be around for a long, long time. Today, we're going to look at 5 canceled pro wrestling video games. Whether the company went out of business, whether a prototype was made, or whether a pitch has been made and the game was never produced. Today, we have 5 canceled pro wrestling video games. The year is 2000. The company is WCW. At the time, you remember how this all played out. WWE bought WCW, and the company was no more. Well, they were actually working on a sequel to WCW Mayhem for the PS2. This was going to be called WCW Mayhem 2. It's also known as WCW 2000. This is kind of a tough title thing here because I think that WCW 2000 actually got turned into WCW Backstage Assault, but WCW Mayhem 2 was never produced. It was going to be published by EA and developed by AKI for the PS2. They wanted to have branching storylines, over 1,000 moves, and they wanted to have matches like First Blood and Gauntlet. Unfortunately, WCW Mayhem 2 never came out, like I said, because WCW was purchased in March of 2001. However, the technology and the engine were later used in EA's wrestling game, Def Jam Vendetta. WWE SmackDown vs. Raw was a huge series for WWE Games and THQ. It spawned a number of sequels. As the PC market was growing, THQ decided we need to make an online WWE SmackDown vs. Raw game, hence WWE SmackDown vs. Raw Online. This was going to be part of the SmackDown vs. Raw series, though in May of 2009, it was actually renamed WWE Online with ties to the series severed. At E3 2010 event, however, it was revealed that they have reverted back to WWE SmackDown vs. Raw Online. This game was going to be an online game where players could connect to challenge their friends to matches, interact, or shop. The shop would include buying each other's brands and wrestlers, which I think would be a very, very fun feature. The game was going to feature both single-player and multiplayer mode, and the players could either play as WWE wrestlers or create their own wrestlers to try and get into the WWE Hall of Fame. The player could get points that they would unlock features, items, level ups such as abilities, clothing, items to improve their character. The creative wrestler feature was in WWE Games before, but they wanted to include such things as create a taunt, create a moveset, create an arena, create a finisher, create an entrance, and a brand new 3D paint tool. This would allow users to import JPEGs, GIFs, PNGs, and PSD files for use in the game. As we know, today, WWE 2K16 actually does have the paint tool in the game. In February of 2011, THQ held its quarterly earnings conference call and announced that the game was canceled. WWE Titans Parts Unknown. It was a canceled video game that was developed by Next Level Games. You might know them best for Super Mario Strikers, which I think is a great game, and Punch-Out for the Wii in 2004. It was planned to be released on the PS2 and the Xbox One, and it was going to be a 1v1 fighter. It appears the game was never fully developed, and it was canceled very early on. There may be a prototype, but no media has ever been recovered. The only thing that we can find is Next Level Development's proposal to take WWE Games into a very, very different direction. Now, we do have a variety of images showing what was planned for the game, and it was an attempt to have a bold new spin on WWE Games. Its art style was different from the norm, featuring exaggerated characters, design more cinematic in its stages. The level settings of WWE Titans varied and diverse in comparison to other wrestling games. They range from urban environments like rooftops and sprawling cities to tops of castles, snowy wilderness, etc. It appears that some of the individual wrestlers had arenas dedicated to them, as one of the concepts labeled is Cena's Stage. Alongside a number of the established wrestlers, they were going to experiment with original cast members. Aside from the stylized look of the Titans, there remains little information available on its planned gameplay mechanics. One big feature would have been destructible environments. Even though this game was never created, I believe in my mind this led to the creation of WWE Brawl. Like WWE Titans Parts Unknown, WWE Brawl was going to be a WWE fighting game with destructible environments, and I believe that WWE Titans Parts Unknown led to WWE Brawl. There's a lot of information about this game because WWE.com actually wrote an article about it. In 2009, they say WWE and THQ started working on the top secret video game. This was a very confidential project, and it was actually in slate with 3 video games. They were working on WWE Legends of WrestleMania, then WWE All-Stars, and then WWE Brawl was going to be launched. However, the game was canceled and it was never released. WWE Brawl was a really good project, says Chris Burns, an animator who worked on the game. It was a shame that it never saw the light of day. The long story behind WWE Brawl is that they wanted to create their version of Super Smash Bros. Now, THQ actually changed one of its Australia studios to Blue Tongue Entertainment and assigned them to develop WWE Brawl. One of the first things that they wanted to do was create WWE superstars that were stylized on their personas. They didn't want to create realistic-looking characters. They wanted to accentuate all of their characteristics and make them very, very outlandish and cartoonish. At the start of it, I really wanted to make it look like almost a cartoon had come to life, said Drew Morrow, a senior artist on the game. The tagline of the game was no ring, no ref, no rules, and they actually had a concept that they could actually work these characters into a cartoon if they wanted to. So they took the characters, they put some cool armor on them, and they made it stylized that fit the personality of each wrestler. They even had an idea to have The Miz as a Hollywood mogul or Triple H as a mighty monarch based off of one of his legendary WrestleMania entrances. It quickly became obvious that Blue Tongue concept artists had looked in all the right places. They took the sole focus of finding characters for the game and fueled the ideas to eventually expand WWE Brawl beyond the gaming console. They started to build a world that would come to be known as Brawl City, a wrestling-themed metropolis consisting of several venues that playable characters would face off in. Brawl City consisted of several local landmarks, each a custom environment which would be interactive and, more importantly, completely destructive. The environments would have to act as rings without being your stereotypical ring, says senior environmental artist Stephen Rushbrook. After some early growing pains and late developmental gains, WWE Brawl truly started taking shape. Those with direct knowledge to WWE Brawl's project felt the game was 6 months to a year complete. Unfortunately, the plug was pulled on WWE Brawl. Now they say bad timing, unstable economy, and sheer difficulty in producing the game of this magnitude. I say THQ is going out of business. Now, if you look closely and you go back and watch WWE Slam City, the animated WWE series, you could see some inspiration from WWE Brawl in there, such as John Cena serving as a mechanic in his own garage. As much information as we have on WWE Brawl, unfortunately, this project never saw the light of day. WWF Backlash 64, that's right, the THQ AKI series was going to have one more in its lineage. We started at WCW NWO World Tour, WCW NWO Revenge, WWF WrestleMania 2000, and WWF No Mercy. Then we were going to get WWF Backlash 64. This game was said to be about 30% completed before they canceled it, and Nintendo 64 was actually going on the end of its life cycle. This is a very sad thing because we don't have a lot of information about this game. The only thing that we know is it was going to be a sequel to No Mercy. And with that in mind, that's enough to let me know that this was going to be a good game. I will go on record saying that the AKI THQ N64 wrestling games are some of the best wrestling games of all time, and I will fight you to the death right now if you want to argue with me. That's all I know about this game. It was a sequel, 30% completed, and the N64 ended its life cycle. Unfortunately, we don't have any more information on that, but guys, let me know in the comments section below. Out of all of these canceled WWE games, which one hits you the most and which one makes you the saddest and which one do you think they would have actually created? Anyway, guys, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. As always, TonyPizzaGuy, deuce, whee!